Joshua Cribbs turns disaster into a score!
Ugly, misformed little creature who has no purpose here, no meaning.
I am a human being.
Washed it down with 1 beer, 2 beers, 3 beers, a shot of whiskey, a margarita, and a Bloody Mary. And I said, Stone Cold, why have one when you can have them both?
Swung out and drilled! Deep right center! Away back! Gone for Tony!
Irving and Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up.
It's good! Kyrie Irving from downtown!
Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton?
Awful.
How is she awful?
Hates freedom.
And now, Any Given Podcast with your hosts, Brendan Ward and Ethan Simpson.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup! Oh, blocked by James! LeBron James with the rejection!
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Any Given Podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Brendan Ward, sitting here next to my main man.
Ethan Simpson, how are you?
Doing pretty good, Ethan. I can't complain. We're here on another fantastic Tuesday down in Kent, Ohio.
At the lovely, historic Kent stage.
No place better to be on a Tuesday.
No,
I promise.
You can't beat it.
Promise you. All right, let's get into it. UFC 252 is over the weekend. It is historic for us because it is Cleveland's own, Valley View's own Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier, the third fight in their trilogy. But we'll get to that later. Let's open with the opening fight of the night. Merab Dvalishvili, the Machine is what I'm going to call him from now on because I do not want to pronounce that again. Gets the decision win over John Dodson. Really, the Machine just dominated the fight throughout. Just couldn't really put Dodson away. But the entire fight was his. He controlled the pace. He controlled the action. He did all of the above. And there's not really anything around that. So he's just in a loaded bantamweight division. He's just some guy that's just another good guy that's gonna give you 3 to 5 rounds every single time coming out.
See, I missed most of the prelims.
Yeah.
I only caught the O'Malley and Stipe fight.
It happens. So I'll go ahead and move on to the next one. Daniel Pineda TKOs Herbert Burns in round 2. Burns came in as a favorite. Pineda just was able to, again, be the guy that was the aggressor, control the fight, and then catching him in the second round for the TKO to move himself up towards a title shot. He's not there yet. He's still got to get a couple more wins. But on to more exciting things and more kind of big picture things for the UFC. With the next fight, Jairzinho Rozenstruik, Biggie Boy, got a TKO victory over Junior Dos Santos. Junior Dos Santos is the former UFC heavyweight champion. During his heyday, one of the best there ever was in the business. However, lately he's been struggling with coming back or getting wins and things like that. Rozenstruik just looked to be the bigger competitor. He even looked to be the less conditioned competitor in terms of cardio, but just like Francis Ngannou, the guy who seemingly is next in line for the UFC heavyweight championship, is just one of those guys that when they catch you, it's over.
Yeah. I saw some clips from that on Twitter.
Yeah.
After the fact, and like you were saying, he was throwing some big boy hits.
They don't call him Biggie Boy for nothing.
I know.
Man.
Sorry, he was throwing some Biggie Boy hits.
Yeah, the Biggie Boy hits for sure. It was actually pretty entertaining. I thought that it would, knowing what Dos Santos has done in the last couple of fights, I wasn't that optimistic at how well this fight would go. And it ended up surprising me quite a bit just because Junior Dos Santos looked like he was back. And then all the first round, I would say that Dos Santos probably won the first round just based on his cardio, his conditioning, coming in as the leaner fighter, the more athletic fighter. But Rozenstruik caught him, and that was the end of it. So Biggie Boy gets a TKO victory over former champion Junior Dos Santos, puts himself right in the mix. Obviously, Ngannou, John Jones, if he moves up, are ahead of him just because of who they are. Ngannou has beaten everybody since he lost. And then John Jones if he says he wants a title fight, he's going to get a darn title fight.
Right. I mean, it's John Jones.
Yeah,
They're not
he's-
going to deny it. His tweet last night was kind of strange.
He said something. Go ahead and say what he said, because I know kind of what he said, but I
He
can't.
said that he was waving he got off the phone with the UFC, like the heads of the UFC, and he was waving his title fight. He canceled that one pretty much,
So
but
he
he
can-
didn't deny that he was leaving the UFC.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that one. I seen the one where he said that he got off the phone with the UFC or something like that, and then that his move to heavyweight has been approved and it's time to start gaining weight.
Maybe I misread it. That's probably what he meant. He was waving his old title fight to get into the heavyweight. That
Well-
makes more sense.
In light heavyweight, the only person in line for that would be Daniel Cormier.
Yeah.
There's John Jones is beating everyone else. I mean, you can give him the guy he beat a couple months ago, but even him, I mean, even though he gave John Jones probably the biggest fight of anybody, including Cormier, even him, I don't know if deserves another shot right away. So light heavyweight still has a lot of stuff to figure out. So there's not necessarily an immediate competitor, although UFC does do even though you are the champ in both divisions, they do strip you of one title.
Yeah.
They did it with Conor. They did it with everybody. The reason Kamaru Usman won the title is because it was an interim title, and then he beat the guy who really had it. And interim titles in UFC throw me off so much because there's so many different interim champions at any given time, just because a champion is like, nah, I want to take a year off. Okay,
Right.
he could take a year off. He's afforded that. It's these
Right.
guys' turn to try to get back up in that conversation to deserve a title shot. That's how it should be. You sit here as
Yeah.
the champion and wait for somebody who willingly and deserves a shot at your title.
I've never understood that, the interim thing. It's like if he wants, like you said, if he wants to take a year off, he's deserved it. But don't say the interim champion.
Yeah, he's
like what does that even mean? Just say that he's trying to fight to get to the title fight.
Yeah, you don't. To me, like even if it's your main event, you don't even need to call it an interim title fight. Call it a number one contender fight.
Yeah.
Just steal a little something from the WWE. Now, it's obviously scripted and stuff like that in the WWE, but steal that for sure. Let's have number one contender fights. There are a number one and a number two fighting to see who's the number one to go against the champion. That's something that happens, so I don't really get it. But it happens a lot. Whatever. Moving on, the co-main event of the evening, Sugar Sean O'Malley, who has been on fire lately, undefeated since his return, undefeated in his professional UFC career at 12-0, takes on Marlon Vera. He did suffer a right leg injury in the fight, and it seemed to be severe. However, Tuesday, a report came out that the x-rays came back negative, so there's no fracture or break. However, it is so swollen that they do have to wait for an MRI. So you're likely looking at structural damage and stuff like that. And as a result of the leg injury, suffered a TKO loss in the first round to Chito Vera.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Going into that fight, he had that rainbow hair. I guess that's his thing. That's always been his
he's
thing.
had rainbow hair for a while.
Yeah, but he added an extra stripe onto his hair, a red stripe.
The only problem is that.
He dyed his hair the color of the Ecuadorian flag, where Marlon is from,
Yeah.
which probably threw gasoline on the fire of him already saying, like, this dude, he's a loudmouth, he's got this crazy hair, now he's taking my country's flag and putting it on its head.
Yeah, I'm sure it 100% pissed Vera off, and within his own right, it should have. That's something like you don't take lightly. Like a lot of people in UFC, they are fighting for their country. They take their flag out to every fight. Conor McGregor always is walking with an Irish flag.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much a big deal for them, and for him to do that is just absurd. I like O'Malley. I don't think he's like. I like the antics though. I think it.
I mean, yeah, it adds, it's like a character.
Yeah, it adds flair, and it's the reason Conor McGregor was so successful.
Yeah.
It adds flair, and he's just trying to do it in his own way. You overstepped and you lost. You gotta take your beating. Now come back if you want to do it again. Go ahead and do it again. Just know you're gonna piss this guy off, and if you lose, you're gonna get criticized. Now, not too many people are gonna criticize him about this loss. It was a freak accident with the injury. Not much else to that. So nobody is really gonna call him out on that. But I guess we'll see just how long he's out, depending on just exactly what happened. It did not look good though.
So, Brendan, I saw a lot of people tweeting that shouldn't be considered a loss because he rolled his ankle. A loss is a loss in the UFC.
A loss is a loss. Anderson Silva didn't even lose, broke his leg, completely snapped it over the side of somebody.
It went around the other dude's
And
leg.
the only reason that one got called is because he couldn't stand up. He still took the loss.
Yeah.
Just because you have an injury, it's something that you deal with, and a lot of times it's something that a lot of fighters come into fights with anyways.
Yeah.
It's not really that off, but never mind the O'Malley fight. The moment we've all been waiting for a year now, since Stipe Miocic finally won his title back last year from Daniel Cormier. The main event of the evening on Saturday, Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier for the heavyweight title. It went about as good as the first three fights. I figured I think I could have called a non-knockout in this fight. Just once guys get so much time in the ring together, you know what's coming, and they started talking about that in the fifth round. They really knew each other's offense and were able to combat it pretty well. The thing is Stipe was able to go towards what he used more in the Francis Ngannou fight, where, look, I'm not gonna let you just straight up punch me. I'm bigger than you, Stipe's not bigger than Ngannou, but he's bigger than Cormier.
I mean, height-wise.
Yeah, and he just basically he knew Ngannou couldn't wrestle. Now Cormier can wrestle. The thing is Stipe's so much bigger than Cormier. It was hard for Cormier to get out of that, and that's what he went to. Because Cormier was the better striker in that fight.
Yeah, so things I took away from that fight was, yes, obviously DC knows how to wrestle.
Yes.
So Stipe knows that. Stipe was letting Cormier kind of be the striker.
Yeah.
So Stipe kind of had his back to the fence most of the time, but Stipe, he has that 80-inch reach. So 80-inch, right?
Yeah.
80-inch reach. I had to double check. But yeah, so he was like getting him, like kind of keeping him back, and then when DC would like try to throw like a big uppercut, then Stipe would attack, which is a great. I mean, it's almost like the rope-a-dope.
It's actually pretty insane what Stipe has accomplished, considering he is not the best striker of UFC heavyweights. He is also not the best wrestler of all UFC heavyweights. He's just somewhere in the middle of both, and he uses that to his advantage. He uses it to pick his poison, like you said, and it was whenever DC would duck and come in, he would take advantage of that, just like DC would take advantage of when he would fake the single leg. Stipe kept biting on it, and DC's now 2 inches from his face, just tagging him.
Yeah, well, here's the thing about Stipe. He's very intelligent, so he has that fighter's instinct and brain. That's how he can win these matches, and that's why he is the greatest heavyweight champion of the UFC ever, if he wins his next title match fight.
No, he's the GOAT already.
I know, but I mean, sorry, not if, when he wins his next title fight, then it'll be completely...
It'll be certified.
It'll be locked in.
Locked in because Ngannou's the only threat. Unless he fights John Jones, then just give it to him automatically, because if he could beat John Jones, he can beat Ngannou, no problem. Jones is the only person I think is a legitimate threat to him.
So speaking of Stipe, some of you at home might know this, some of you might not, but me and Brendan are actually very good friends with Stipe. We spent at least 3 days a week for the last, year and a half, hanging out in his hometown where he's a firefighter, less than a mile down the road from his fire station. So we've gotten to know each other, maybe not personally, but we're boys.
Pretty close.
We're boys.
we're pretty we're boys. That's
He
the best
knows
way to-
where we went to school. I know where he works. So
Yeah, we got that covered. We're gonna reach out to him at some point.
Have
in
to.
the next week or two. We'll see.
might have to go stop by the firehouse,
Bro, Stipe's great. He might say yeah to us.
right?
Like just a small time podcast right now, but I could see Stipe. Like
That's what I love about Stipe compared to O'Malley. O'Malley has the flash and show just like McGregor, but I like the way McGregor did it more than O'Malley. But Stipe is just an honest, hardworking man. He turned down fights during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're still in a pandemic, but during the lockdown and stuff.
yeah.
Because he wanted to stay at the fire station and help the people of Valley View.
Yeah, that's why
That's
it
how
took
much
so
of a-
long to get this rematch.
Yeah, that's how much of a great, humble human being he is.
He won the UFC heavyweight championship on Saturday. He is currently at the Valley View Firehouse cleaning toilets on Tuesday.
I love that that's like the firehouse antics. They always make him clean the toilets after he wins the fight wearing his belt. That's hilarious to me, but that's,
Yeah.
that's like football teams.
It's work camaraderie. That's what it is. Those are his boys.
Yeah.
More than he fights UFC one night every 6 months.
Yeah. The rest of the time he's there in the firehouse with his guys.
He don't need the money. He don't need any of it. He don't
Right.
need to work. He
Right.
needs to. Think about that. Imagine if he fully dedicated himself to just UFC.
Yeah. I mean, and the matter of fact too is he's been training with Myles Garrett all offseason. I had a buddy who was like, DC is gonna win this. And I was like, why is that? And he's like, well, he's bigger and stronger. And I was like, well, one, DC's 5'11", Stipe's 6'4", and Stipe has been training with Myles Garrett. Like, one day they'll do UFC training, the next day they'll do football training. So not only is he training for UFC, he's also training like a defensive back would. I mean, the guy's just, hats off to him.
Absolutely. Cleveland's own Stipe Miocic wins the heavyweight title on Saturday. On to other Cleveland sports.
Real fast, before we get into other Cleveland sports, we have two things to say.
Yes.
Brendan, do you want to
Yes.
say your thing and I'll say mine?
We would just like to send a special shout out / prayer to Matt Lodi of SI.com is what most people know him as. But for me, a mentor, for Ethan, a mentor. A lot of things, a lot of partnerships could have happened with Matt Lodi if it weren't for this pandemic. However, we just want to send a special prayer to him. He's currently fighting cancer. Found out yesterday that he's not doing as great as he thought he would. So I'm not going to go too much more into it. It's his own personal information. If you know him, you know what's going on. Just a special shout out to him. Matt, you're one of the strongest people we know. I know we talked a little bit earlier about what's going on and stuff like that. You got this, man. Just stay strong. You've beat it before. Unfortunately, these ugly things do come back, and I have no doubt in my mind that you're one of the strongest people I know, and you'll get through it. And I just hope that this small thing that I could say just brings light to your day to know that you've affected so many people, even if, like, we haven't even met each other really, but we've had conversations and we've discussed different things about writing for your website and things like that, to where you could just tell the type of human you are. And to get 500 comments on a post about what's going on, just people pouring their guts out and letting you know that they're going to pray for you, is something that should let you know just what effect you've had on this industry alone, let alone just how many people are behind you and praying that you do well.
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. We're all rooting for you, praying for you. There's a lot of people that, if they were in your shoes, would have given up, but you have that drive and that fight. So, in the words of the Grateful Dead, keep on trucking, man. Keep going. You actually offered me honestly, out of nowhere, I was recommended to you by one of our instructors at Ohio Media School, and you offered me an internship, like one of my dreams internships. You offered it to me, and unfortunately, due to the COVID virus and the shutdown and all of that, it was not able to happen. But the mere fact that you offered me that internship and the fact that you offered me it for next year, I am grateful, and we're rooting for you, man.
Any given podcast is on your side.
Yes.
But moving on from less somber news, what else you got for me, my man?
Sorry, just to cut him off. Yes, less somber news. Officially, Brendan Ward will be presented the best audio project of the 2019 Knights class from OMS that we won. He unfortunately could not make it to our graduation, so on behalf of both of us, I had to accept it. Brendan, there you are.
I mean, it's special. I didn't get to go to our graduation that first time just simply because I was out of town with my sister's graduation in the Navy, and forgot it even came up, and it's something that I probably shouldn't have forgot came up. But to know that any given, Diamond in the Rough won that Audio Nights Best Project for 2019, and it's something that really based off of what we did, just simply because we educated everyone on every single aspect of that, from what was going on in the world of sports at that time, and all of that, and just to be able to win it based off of knowing that we put most of the work into that project, very exciting. So glad I finally get presented it. It's a good thing to do it on something that we do on our show. So very glad that happened. But now,
I also, sorry, 1 second. The butt on this guy is incredible.
yeah, he baby got back.
Baby got back.
Baby got back. We'll move on from that. On to the Indians. As you know by now, because we talked about it last week, if you're an avid listener, or if you just open a phone or the internet at any point, you know Mike Clevenger and Zach Plesac both went out 2 weekends ago in Chicago while the Tribe were playing the White Sox. Last Friday, they were scheduled to return to the team with that is how long they had to stay out. They even drove all the way to Detroit for the club's meeting with the Tigers. However, after having an open meeting Friday night and it coming out Monday that reliever Oliver Perez threatened to opt out of the rest of the season if the two weren't sent away, the team decided to option both of them to the alternate training site in Columbus.
Lake County, yes, Lake County.
It's just crazy to think that they would send two of their starting five pitchers down. Like, I know Plutko can step in, and I know they could always do a bullpen guy for the fifth guy. But it's crazy to me to think that for one player who hasn't been on the team that long to opt out, considering he's 40 years old, and yes, he has been pretty good this year for the Indians, that was their breaking point. It had to be more than just him. I'm guessing that there was support on that same issue from Lindor or Ramirez or Santana or one of these bigger name guys that hold a little more weight in that locker room. Or even it was just Frank Kona's call, just him being away from the team at the time and them just doing the BS that they were doing. I could very much see that call. Also coming from that is Zach Plesac's Instagram live video essentially blaming the media for painting the wrong picture, despite the fact that he actually did break code protocol and went out. Us and the rest of the media are the people to blame because we painted it as the wrong thing. He just went out with buddies. Hey guy, that's what we said. We said you went out with buddies. That was the problem. How is it painting it maliciously? First of all, just when Frank Kona last week came out and said that they were at 2 stages of acceptance, who did you think was the one that wasn't accepting it?
Yeah.
You didn't think it was Plesac, right? You thought for sure it was Clevenger's ego that wasn't accepting that he was at fault.
Yeah.
I would have bet any money that it was Mike Clevenger not accepting it. Turns out it's Zach Plesac, and Clevenger is just eating his crow and realizing he did the wrong thing.
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, do you think the video had anything to do with the eventual option to the alternate training site?
Well, here's the thing. Let me start at the beginning with Clevenger and Plesac. Plesac gets caught on camera. The MLB reports it to the president of baseball operations for the MLB. He then tells the Indians to send Plesac home. Clevenger comes to the rescue of Plesac in a post-game conference or a press conference, and then Clevenger has the cojones to board the plane with the other team members, and then while they're waiting to leave, they get notified that, yes, Clevenger was with Plesac. So now Clevenger and Plesac have to go back from Chicago to Cleveland, and then it comes out that Plesac does that 6 minutes and like 30 seconds?
Yeah, it was long. It wasn't a short
And
just apology.
He was saying that they went to dinner with some friends, went back to their friend's house, didn't do anything at their friend's house but open up baseball cards and compare them. What? That's like the Marlins saying that those guys just went out in Atlanta and got milk.
Here's the thing. He also made the statement that it was only 8 people and the gathering number is 10. You need to be under 10. No, for baseball, it's you need to not be in a gathering at all. You need to be in the darn team hotel.
You want to gather with somebody, gather with your teammates.
Go to the darn lobby and hang out with Mike Clevenger.
Right? You guys could have, I guarantee there was a hotel bar there. If you guys wanted to go out and celebrate, go to the hotel bar.
I mean,
you guys don't have to pitch in the next couple days.
I mean, what is it? Your regular teacher, Terry Francona, was out, so you're going to act like he had a substitute back in elementary school?
Right, and the fact that they disrespected not only the team by lying, but disrespected Sandy Alomar Jr., who is a legend in Cleveland.
An Indians legend, man, and just the disrespect towards him, disrespect towards the team, knowing everything. I'm just done with it too. Whatever happens with him, happens with him.
That's why I'm with not so much Perez, Oliver, because he hasn't been with the team that long. Like you said, there has to been somebody else had to have said, look, I don't want these guys here. You know, they're screwing us over. They're potentially not only putting us at risk, they're putting the season at risk. And Terry Francona even came out after he saw the IG video and said, I'm disappointed. You ever have your parents say, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed?
Yeah, it's worse.
Yeah.
It's worse. You don't want to disappoint people you love, and Terry Francona definitely loves him. So there's that. Also with the Tribe, dominant weekend over the weekend against the Detroit Tigers in Detroit, extending their winning streak against the Tigers to 20 in a row. Shane Bieber continued to be himself throughout this year. He is now like 4th on the list through 5 starts in strikeouts behind 4 Hall of Famers. I don't know their exact names. It's Nolan Ryan and Randy Johnson. And the guys you could probably guess at this point. But my question out of this is this Cy Young?
Sorry, Pedro Martinez. I think he was on the list too.
Yeah.
Sorry, go
something
on
like that. But my question from this is, now that we're nearly halfway through the season, is the Cy Young Shane Bieber's to lose?
Absolutely, unless the MLB does the thing where they want Garrett Cole to win it or somebody like that. Other than that, it's definitely Shane Bieber's. I mean, how could it not be? He tied the record for most strikeouts on opening day in the MLB. And he's just been absolute fire ever since.
He's had one game where he looked human. Other than that, he looked unhittable, unstoppable, like a juggernaut. What other words can I use? He looked like a god.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I love Kluber, but it makes me say, Kluber who?
Exactly. With him pretty much effectively being done for the season, it almost justifies the trade that Bieber's been able to step up even only 1 year after coming up and getting his All-Star Game MVP bid. Other news in baseball. Rookie Fernando Tatis Jr. for the San Diego Padres has been on fire lately. He continued that last night. The Padres were up 10-4 in the top of the 8th. However, on a 3-0 pitch with the bases loaded, instead of just taking the pitch, Tatis turns on one to right field, hits a grand slam. The fallout, the unwritten rules of baseball is what's at play right now. Should have taken that pitch. No, you shouldn't have. Why take the hottest hitter in baseball at this point in time and just be like, yeah, don't swing?
I'm going to try and make this quick. The unwritten rules in baseball are don't bang on trash cans to learn pitches. It's not don't swing at a pitch that you can hit. That's absolutely insane. That's like They're talking like Little League Baseball mercy rule type thing.
That was my first thought coming out of it, was like, if you're going to be this upset, give me a 10-run mercy rule and let's just get it over with.
Yeah. I mean, it's just absolutely mind-boggling that they were like, oh, he shouldn't have hit that. That's like, no, you want to talk about an unwritten rule that's not in baseball? Hey, how about when you're losing, why don't you just take a knee to end the game instead of making Myles Garrett hit you over the head with a helmet?
I mean, whatever, baseball. Let's come up into the 21st century. What do you got for me, Ethan? I know you got something for me in terms of sponsorship.
So, do you or anybody you know have a birthday coming up?
Quite a few, actually.
Does your dad or mother enjoy music, live music events? Do they miss them?
Very much so.
Well, I got good news for you.
Yeah?
Yeah. KentStagePosters.com.
That's KentStagePosters.com. Let me put that in my phone.
Yeah. You can get any poster from the most recent shows at the Kent Stage since 2016. That's KentStagePosters.com.
KentStagePosters.com. Go get the posters and follow it. We appreciate it. Check it out. You can't go wrong with memorabilia, and posters are one of the best you can get.
You know me. I love memorabilia.
Memorabilia is what it is, just in poster form.
One thing you can't buy, though, from KentStagePosters.com is this Any Given Podcast, Diamond in the Rough trophy. You can't buy that there. But other than that, it's all yours.
All right, now that we're back, let's go ahead and move on to football. Cleveland Browns started full squad practices on Friday. Coming in from that, Myles Garrett has a small hamstring issue. It doesn't seem too serious, according to Kevin Stefanski's press conference on Friday following the practice. In other news, J.C. Tretter did have a knee procedure, and we are just unsure just how long he'll be out. And Stefanski would not go into detail just exactly what it was, even going far as to repeat himself, just saying that it was a knee procedure.
Yeah, it's unfortunate with J.C. Tretter. Obviously, he's the NFLPA president, but we have acquired more offensive linemen during the offseason. So it's not that he won't be missed, but at this point, it's kind of next man up.
Oh, it's got to be.
Yeah. And in years past, our main problem with the Browns was our offensive line. And now we just have so many linemen that we can't really think of what to do with them. And so we're switching positions for him, trying to work with it. It kind of sucks that that Stefanski wouldn't say how long he would be out. I'm hoping he'll at least be able to play at least like the second half of the season.
I think we'll get him. I think we'll get him the second half of the season for sure. I think it's probably a month thing, and he just doesn't want to say right now that he's going to be out game one. Mm-hmm. I also think that if he misses game one, odds are we don't see him till week 3, just because if you miss game one, what are the odds you're going to do a 4-day turnaround and play on a Thursday against the Bengals?
Yeah, that is true.
You don't need to rush him back against the Bengals. Even without him, I think you could beat that team, despite the fact that they have Joe Burrow at the helm now.
Now, with Myles Garrett, they have said he just tweaked it a little bit.
It was just a tweak. They say there's no cause for concern there. He should be back. He still hasn't practiced, but all signs are pointing that he should be back sometime very soon.
Myles has expressed that it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. It's one of those things in football.
It's just the body is not used to moving the way it's had to move in the last 2 weeks. End of story.
Even with all the training he's done, it's still not the same as being, on the field in live game action.
Being on the field is completely different. Just ask Nick Chubb, who in Monday took a high hit from linebacker Mack Wilson in practice and is now in concussion protocol. First of all, I get that it's your first day in pads and things like that, and you do want to show out. And Mack Wilson has to make that step forward this year so that he could solidify himself as one of the starters in that linebacking core, which is the glaring hole on that defense. Here's the thing. It's practice. Like, I get you want to practice like you play, but
Whoa, you talking about practice? Not
yes,
a game.
I'm talking
Not
about
a game.
I'm talking about practice,
Practice?
man. Talking about practice. Here's the thing. That's the thing. Not talking about a game. We're talking about practice. My thing is in practice, I don't know about you. Anytime I was in practice, it was always don't tackle the quarterback, don't put people on, try not to aggressively put people on the ground. These are your teammates. You don't want to take anybody out for a game that you might need them. Now, I'm not really worried that Nick Chubb's going to be out all the way till week 1 with this concussion. However, just a bonehead play that could have been avoided. Without a doubt, there's no doubt in my mind that this 100% could have been avoided. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. A bonehead play. I'm not gonna go crazy on Mack Wilson. However, I know it seems to be we're just continue to report injury news. Mack Wilson on Tuesday went out, carted off the field in practice with an apparent knee injury. That's all we really know. There will be more developments on that later in probably even the evening or the week. But just some major injuries that, unfortunately.
Well, here's the thing. Like you were saying, I never put on pads. I never played football. But I know from baseball, you don't go all out because you could get injured. You could throw out your arm, anything like that.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Football, completely different, contact sport. Why is Mack Wilson hitting the starting running back as hard as he can? Here's a side note. On Sunday, he tweeted out, will not tolerate, and then in all caps, disrespect. So I don't know if he was talking about the team or he was trying to prove something on Monday because people are talking about him. I've heard nothing but good things from Browns fans about Mack Wilson. I personally like Mack Wilson.
I wrote a whole article on how he was the steal of the draft last year.
Yeah. So I don't know who's disrespecting him or why listen to the haters. You saw what happened. Speaking of Myles Garrett, you saw what happened when people were saying that extremely rude and racist stuff to him. What did he do? He called him out. He just put it out on Twitter. The one guy that called him the N-word was on. He was on the Tennessee PGA Tour.
Lost his job.
Yep.
No disrespect will be tolerated. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. The thing is don't go full go in practice. You shouldn't be hitting your running back high. You shouldn't be hitting him as hard as you can. You shouldn't be taking him to the ground. Overall, you're here to learn plays and things like that and execute them. Now, there are specific times where you are going full go in practice. Those are tackling drills, not team drills.
I feel like Mack has to feel bad about obviously hitting Chubb like that. I know they're SEC rivals in college, but guess what? This ain't college. You guys are getting paid.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that Mack Wilson has certain regrets with the situation. No way around that. Other news in football, the first major injury reported coming out of any NFL camp. Dallas Cowboys, my team, defensive tackle Gerald McCoy, who they recently signed in the offseason, ruptured his quad tendon on Monday early during practice. The video came out late Monday night into Tuesday to where it actually almost looked like a freak accident. They were down in the trenches, and the guy barely touched him, and then you could see him stand up and then fall over. It's just something like it gave out on him, pretty much, it seems. Development from that, Tuesday, the Cowboys did cut him.
Oh. I did not see that.
Just like an hour ago, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, they don't really play any games down there in Dallas, huh?
I mean, I thought he'd still stay on the roster, but considering they weren't paying him that much, it was all fully guaranteed. I'm pretty sure it was like vet minimum type thing.
When I hear ruptured, it makes me think like it exploded.
It's pretty much what happened.
Like you rupture your spleen, like your spleen explodes.
Yeah, it pretty much tore into two and just just blah. And I'm sure if there was a back view of the video, you could just watch it in his leg, just kind of like how, kind of like how Kevin Durant's injury happened in the finals, where you could see it. You saw it boink. I'm pretty sure you would have been able to see that if there was a close up of his injury. But yeah, they cut him. Obviously, they've got other talent at defensive tackle, signing Dontari Poe in the offseason as well. And then Antoine Woods, who, depending on what comes of his arrest earlier this offseason, he had a very good year for the Cowboys last year prior to injury in the final 2 games.
So speaking of injuries to your legs, James Gerald, hope you get better, buddy.
Basketball. The best time to be a basketball fan is right now. We are heading into the playoffs. The bubble seeding games are over. The Suns, the Phoenix Suns, who nobody thought would be anything, come back, go 8-0 in the bubble just to not make the playoffs.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. You know, they have those 7 all-star players on their team. They ran great, 8-0, but it started with that's one thing I didn't understand about the bubble. So you come in with the record you already had, but if you're balling out in the bubble, 8-0, why not just be like, all right, they're in, you know?
It could have been to where they came in the first 7 seeds, which didn't end up changing anyways. You were just locked, and then between the 8 seeds, whoever played the best in the bubble, they could have did that. Unfortunately, they went away from that, and that meant that the Grizzlies only really needed to win like 2 games to get into the play-in game. Obviously, the Blazers did the work and got there. I can't fault them for that. And then the play-in game on Saturday, the 8 seed Portland Trailblazers, who, like I said, did the work and got in despite looking like they were a long shot to make it, were able to get in there. And then the Grizzlies, who somehow snuck a win on the final night of seeding games against the Spurs to end their streak of consecutive playoff years at like over 20. So that was a pretty historic moment as well. So discussing the seeding games, who do you think deserves to win bubble MVP?
Ooh. For the overall bubble or for the playoffs?
For the overall bubble. They're going to give a regular season bubble MVP award.
Devin Booker? I mean,
I can agree with you.
I would think Devin Booker or Dame, right?
Yeah, those are probably the 2 biggest options. I think Devin Booker probably deserves it just because of what he did with that team. Damian Lillard obviously has the better team around him. However, Booker made his team 8-0. Gave him a shot when they were probably the least team that anybody thought would have a shot in making it at all or getting anywhere close. However, I do think that they'll give it to Damian Lillard just because he was able to have that 3-game stretch at the end, 61, 51, 41, and will his team into that 8 seed and then eventually put his team in the playoffs. That starts Tuesday night. That series, now they're the 8 seed playing the number 1 Lakers starting Tuesday night. Time to go right into the playoffs, but let's start with Monday's games have already happened at time of us recording that. Gordon Hayward in that Boston-Philadelphia series suffered a right ankle injury. As you know, he had the really gruesome left ankle injury 2 years ago while playing in Cleveland on opening night while LeBron was still a Cleveland Cavalier. Screenshots from that, if you freeze frame that, it looks pretty similar to the same darn thing happened.
I unfortunately was not watching that game at the time when he sent it over, and then he sent me the screenshot of it, and I asked him the question. I said, is he still wearing his shoe? It looked like his ankle looked like the sole of his foot coming out of the shoe. That's how it bent. It was like a perfect 90-degree angle almost. It was very disgusting, very not good for him. I hope he bounces back. Well, because, I mean, Gordon Hayward is a fantastic player.
To fight back from the first one and then for this to happen now, I texted you, I thought his career was over. Developments from the injury say that it's not that serious. Yes, he is going to be sidelined for 4 weeks. The Celtics announced it as a grade 3 right ankle sprain. If they make the Eastern Conference Finals, that's looking like when they have Gordon Hayward back. And even with that, it's very possible that they do, being the 3 seed and having to face some lesser teams afterwards, or they possibly could face Toronto coming up after that. And with them without Kawhi, that could be a toss-up as well. A very good series.
Yeah.
So it's possible for them to get in the Eastern Conference Finals and get Hayward back this year. But 4 weeks out, if they don't win a series or two, his season is over. And it's something he needs to start thinking about, his overall long-term health. 2 ankle injuries in 4 years. I truly hope he comes back because, like you said, he's a great player. He fought back from the first one where people didn't like Alex Smith in the NFL. People didn't think Gordon Hayward was going to ever walk again on that leg. Things like that. So it was just very scary to watch, and that's why I brought it to your attention as soon as it happened, because it was like, this is big news, buddy.
Yeah.
If it really is as serious as it looked to me, it's big news. Thankfully, it wasn't.
Yeah. And literally, I said, did his shoe fall off? Because I thought that was his.
If you haven't seen the image, take a look at it. It's very, very scary, and I might even be able to throw it up here for you just to show you it. Very, very scary image to look at and see just what it is. But on to the playoffs. Time to talk our winners and losers of the first round. We're going to go ahead and start in the East just simply because I want to start with the Milwaukee Bucks at the Orlando Magic. Already on Tuesday, the Bucks dropped game 1. However, I think I'm pretty confident in saying that I still think the Bucks walk away with this series. The Magic, as the 8 seed last year, won game 1 as well, and then we're out in 5.
Yeah, I think that might have been a hoax they pulled just because they're in Orlando, Disney, that's their sponsor. Disney owns ESPN. I'm not saying anything, but
yeah, I'm not
saying anything. I'm not accusing anybody, but
I'm not checking in on conspiracies there either. But maybe. I mean, I guess it is technically a home game for them.
yeah.
Other series in the East, you had Boston against Philadelphia Monday. Boston won game 1. Who wins this series? I think it's the toughest one to call for me in the East. Aside from that 4-5 Pacers Miami series, just because both teams I think are pretty good. Boston Philadelphia also. However, Ben Simmons is done.
That's what I was just about to say. That's tough for me too because they don't have Gordon Hayward. Boston doesn't have Gordon Hayward. The 76ers don't have Ben Simmons. That's the only toss-up I really have of all the playoffs.
Overall, I think it
Maybe
bears,
Denver, Utah is another toss-up for me, but
overall, I think it barrels down to Boston still has Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum,
yeah.
Kemba Walker, Marcus Smart. They still have a squad, even though they lost arguably their best player in Gordon Hayward. So I think Boston will probably win that one. Toronto, Brooklyn, the 2 against the 7. Brooklyn doesn't have Kyrie or Kevin Durant, obviously. Can Karis LeVert carry them to a series win against defending champions Toronto Raptors? No. Easy. No.
Yeah.
Toronto's defense is just too good. Nick Nurse has them playing like a championship team, despite the loss of Kawhi Leonard after last year. Fred VanVleet came back better than ever. Kyle Lowry has been better than ever. It's weird. They're almost addition by subtraction. They look like they're a better team this year than they were last year. And somehow, 2 years ago, they trade DeMar DeRozan. They get Kawhi Leonard, and they win a title. This year, they lose Kawhi Leonard, and they still somehow look like one of the most dominant defensive teams in the league.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, the Raptors, it's almost like they didn't have Kawhi last year.
Yeah,
Like they didn't lose Kawhi. Is what I meant.
It's almost like they did not skip a beat, not one bit.
No, because everybody, you know what, and that's probably the fire that, like I said, the gasoline on the fire, because everybody was like, oh,
it's over, they're done.
Yeah, the Raptors are done. They're gonna
book them for number 1 next year.
Yeah, and then if I was a Raptors player, I'd be mad. That would put a fire in my stomach.
Well, you've got perennial All-Star Kyle Lowry. Pascal Siakam is no scrub. Sure, his first couple years he wasn't great, but now he's blossoming into a certified All-Star, one of the best small forwards in the league.
Yeah.
they've got a good squad that plays together, and Brad Stevens pretty much started that in Boston, where you don't need to necessarily have the huge names to have a good team. Toronto with Nick Nurse seems to continue to follow that. They don't have the overall overwhelming superstar. They have Kemba Walker, who's a very good point guard. They have Jason Tatum, who's coming into his own. They have Marcus Smart, who knows his role and plays it very well. They have Jaylen Brown, who's one of the best defensive players in the league. Boston scares me, and we could very much see them in the Eastern Conference Finals, and
Absolutely.
we could also see Toronto in the NBA Finals.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So for the East, my picks are for just winning out of the first round: Milwaukee, Miami, Boston, and Toronto.
Okay. I'm going to agree with you on Milwaukee, Boston, and Toronto. I think the Pacers win this series.
Yeah.
I just think they've been playing lights out. TJ Warren's been unstoppable, and the Heat have just kind of been here.
And, it pains me still to say even spew out Miami Heat.
I get it. That 08 or 09 to 13 was terrible.
Yeah, I was not a fan of the Heat.
But on to the West. Open up with yesterday's games. Denver against Utah. Donovan Mitchell poured in 57 points, but it still wasn't enough. Denver gets a 1-0 lead in the series after an overtime win where they pretty much just shut down the Utah Jazz. The final score, they ended up winning by like 10. It didn't even look close. You wonder why it was even in overtime. But Donovan Mitchell needs help, guys. And you're going to sit here and try to sell me that Rudy Gobert is one of the top big men in the league. You're going to tell me that Joe Ingles is one of the best three-point shooters in the league. Prove it, because Donovan can't score 60 and lose a game.
So I'm going to say something that's a little controversial, but look for Clarkson to hit some big-time shots during this series.
He did.
I know, but I mean, like going on.
Clarkson was like their only offense in that
That's
overtime
what
period. It was ridiculous.
The reason I said controversial is because when he was with the Cavs, he got all those stupid
couldn't
tattoos.
hit a darn thing.
Yeah,
And
he was too
couldn't hit a shot.
busy getting tattoos and daydreaming about when he was with Kendall.
His tenure in Cleveland was pretty much a vanity project.
Yeah.
So there's that. I think Denver probably wins that series. They just, overall, Jamal Murray, Yusuf Nurkic, just think they have the better overall starting five, bench players, depth. Other games that happened on Monday, the LA Clippers edged out a win against the Dallas Mavericks. This looked tight for a while, and actually Dallas was leading for most of the game. In that game, Kristaps Porzingis came to the aid of Luka Doncic and got ejected pretty much immediately, despite the fact that Morris had his hand around his throat.
Yeah, I mean, I watched that video today because they played it all over ESPN.
It's been the talk of the town today.
He literally was like,
Yeah, he was just like, dude, stop. This is our best player. It's pretty much Kyrie stepping in for LeBron, LeBron stepping in for Kyrie. It was that type of thing. Something I never thought I'd see an ejection for. Nevertheless, it happened, and it obviously affected the Mavericks. They were not the same after that.
this is where I go back to like Parks and Rec, basketball. Like I said, Little League baseball earlier.
Yeah.
That's like something you get ejected for in Little League. Is
Yeah.
pushing a guy like
Yeah.
that.
If
Like,
I-
hey, play nice, hands to yourself.
Yeah.
It's a team sport. It's fun,
Object a toddler. Don't eject a full-grown man.
right?
Clippers took that game. I think this is going to be a 7-game series.
I was thinking the same. That's going to be another tough one for me.
I'd really like to see Dallas win it, and I'm going to say they win it just because I don't want to say the Clippers win it. For some reason, I just don't want the Clippers to really be that successful in this in the playoffs. Moving on to Tuesday night's matchups, the Houston Rockets at the Oklahoma City Thunder. Russell Westbrook is out of this game with a quad injury. It's unfortunate because
Was it ruptured?
no, it was not ruptured. I think it's just strained. It's unfortunate, though, because that's one of the big storylines in this. Russell Westbrook, in his first year outside of OKC, has a chance to send them home in the first round. Chris Paul, who was traded away from Houston, has led OKC to the playoffs as the 5 seed, despite only having a 0.02% chance at the beginning of this year.
Yeah. Obviously, the Rockets are going to win it. That's just a fact.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't.
5 games, OKC might get a chance to steal one. I just think that Rockets offense is too potent.
I like Steven Adams and I like Chris Paul, but there's no way you're going up against the Beard and
Yeah.
the rest of the Rockets.
Yeah.
I guess that's
It's
the best way to
just
put
the
it.
Rockets
is
have
Westbrook,
too
the
much.
Beard, and the rest of the Rockets.
The Rockets have too much. And on to the most threatening series to LeBron's first round streak, the Portland Trail Blazers playing the 1 seed Los Angeles Lakers. The reason I said it the way I said it is because this is probably the toughest team LeBron has ever seen in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm going Lakers on this. I mean,
I still think the Lakers win. I'm not saying that. I'm just.
but you get CJ and Dame on the same court together, like they always do, obviously.
Yeah.
But in a high pressure situation like that, when they were counted out because they're the 8 seed,
Yeah.
I think they're gonna ball, but it's gonna. I'm not saying they're going to 7, but it's gonna be a longer series.
You could just tell the tone in LeBron James' voice when he was asked for a scouting report that he was really looking to that this series was going to be a challenge. It is 100%. He went in. Their two guards they have a two-headed monster. End of story. Yusuf Nurkic, when you take your eyes off of him, is going to take advantage of you. They have a Hall of Famer in Melo who can explode at any time. Anyways, the Western Conference, I got Lakers, Rockets, Nuggets. I'm going to call Mavericks because I want the Clippers to lose. I very much am probably going to eat crow next week's show because the Clippers are probably going to be done with that series by then.
I'm going the Lake Show, Rockets, Jazz, and Clippers.
All right, to finish out the show, my man, this day in sports history, what do you got for me?
This day in sports history, August 19th.
1951.
1 second. Was it 51?
Yeah.
All right, my apologies, guys. I was on the wrong page. This day in sports history, August 19th, 1951, ex-Cleveland Indians owner Bill Veeck put in little person Eddie Gadel in a game for the St. Louis Browns, pinch hitting for the St. Louis Browns, standing at 3 feet 7 inches tall. He was and still is the shortest person to ever play a game in Major League Baseball. He drew a walk and then was replaced by a pinch runner, but still, he is the shortest person to ever play a Major League Baseball game.
My man has a 1,000 base percentage for his career. Put him in the Hall of Fame.
Right?
Put
Why
him in the
not?
Hall of Fame. Come on. I mean, originally back then it was just a publicity stunt. It was actually almost a genius move to pretty much erase the strike zone to where this guy could only get thrown balls. Obviously, it was a one-off. It only happened the one time, and for nearly 70 years at this point, just shy of, well, it's 69 years exactly because it's this day in sports history. I should be able to do the darn math, Brendan. That record has stood, and I'm not sure I foresee it ever being broken.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to happen again. So, speaking of Bill
Kyle
Veeck,
Murray plays baseball.
I mean, Altuve is pretty close there, too.
Yeah, Altuve's getting pretty close, and I'm allowed to talk crap about him.
So, in 1946, Bill Veeck became the owner of the Cleveland Indians. He immediately put the team's games on the radio. He also moved the team to Municipal Stadium from League Park because Municipal Stadium could hold more fans. He was the first one to sign Larry Doby, the first African-American to play in the American League. So he broke that barrier. He also signed Satchel Paige from the Negro Leagues. So he was running this, but he got divorced, and so his money was tied up in Cleveland. So he had to sell the team, so his wife couldn't get any of it. And then he bought the St. Louis Browns, where
He then, a year later, put Eddie Gadel in the game to record the shortest ever person in a game. All right, that's it, my man. Where can they follow you?
you can follow me on Twitter at ETHSimpson, CGOD. You can follow me on Instagram at ETHSimpson. You can follow me anywhere you want. Just don't get too close.
I'm hopefully following you all the way to the top, my man. Follow me on Twitter at bwordcle. Follow me on Instagram, b.word52. You can follow the podcast at Podcast Given on Twitter, at Any Given Podcast CLE on Instagram, and Facebook.com/Any Given Podcast. As always, thank you very much for tuning in. You guys have a wonderful rest of your week.
Stay blessed. God bless.